Welcome to a Toast to Truth, where I share the financial, mental, and emotional frustrations of being an entrepreneur. This is season 5, episode 2. How will your life transform if you let ish go? So, this season, we're talking about mental health is not a trend. And we're saying it's not a trend because it's not something you want to just wear on a t shirt or jump on a hashtag because it's cool or it's trending. Mental health, self care, self preservation should be an invested interest, especially in the outcome of yourself or someone else. So let me start with the title, Detox the B.S. or Stay Backed Up. We know what happens when you can't go to the restroom. You get backed up or backed up because you can't go. You usually take a laxative or some other type of medicine, natural remedy to kind of flush your system out and get all of the gunk, the junk, the nastiness out of your system. That's the same with the detox, a mental detox, that is. So, why should you have a mental detox? Just like you get backed up with your bowels, you can get backed up mentally. You can be stuck in the same situation for years. For example, if, say, you were rejected by someone and you did not have the skills or the wherewithal to deal with that situation, the rejection, and learn how to let it go and move on, 2, 3 years down the line, you could still be pissed off at that person and your life hasn't progressed. So you're stuck. You're backed up. You're mentally backed up. The reason you should have a mental detox is so that you understand and know how to remove the gunk out of your mental space. So what is the gunk? The gunk is the replay and tape of the situation, the negative self-talk, the self-sabotage, doubt, bitterness, anger, revenge, the tears, the hurt, the pain, all of that is stuff that will keep you mentally backed up. You, as a human being, should enjoy the life that you have. If you do not enjoy the life that you have, you need to evaluate why. If you are an entrepreneur, why is a detox such an important aspect for you to consider and then actually do? It is an important aspect because as an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to be backed up. You cannot afford for the mental buildup. I'm trying not to be graphic here, but the mental buildup to prohibit you from making strategic and wise decisions for your business. If you, as an entrepreneur, continue to allow the mental buildup to stay when it comes to that big client you want to go after, or doing that webinar, or hosting that event, your negative self doubt, self talk, fear, it will prohibit you from making a move that could potentially help your business progress towards profitability. I don't really talk about revenue that much because you can have low revenue in terms of what other people make and still have high profitability. I advocate for you to have profitability, which means you have low expenses. You still need to operate your business, so you still need to pay for things to happen, but you will have low expenses. That way, the revenue that you do have that comes in is going to be more profit. Okay, that's what I advocate for, profitability. With that being said, if you make a decision and you're still backed up, that could potentially harm your business. In fact, it can actually set your business back. I know I was there. I had so much mental backup when I had my previous business that a lot of the decisions I made were not good. They were, how can I put it? They were the safe decision. And those safe decisions, which I thought at the time were safe, actually ended up costing me a lot more money than if I had probably made a riskier decision. But I was not able to think clearly because my thoughts were all jumbled up because I was mentally backed up. I stayed backed up because it was easier to stay where I was than it was for me to do the work to be able to detox all of the BS that was happening in my life. It's a lot to process when you have a lot of situations going on, when you're running a business and it feels like your personal life is falling apart. It is a lot. It really is a lot to deal with. However, if you want a successful, profitable business, you have to consider doing a mental detox. If you know that there are issues that you are working on, working towards, trying to get rid of, working through, trying to deal with, you need a mental detox. Now, how does a mental detox work? It can work in many different ways. However, going to the spa and drinking wine is not a detox. Okay, those are like some self-care type of activities, and I said type because I'm totally doing an episode on self-care later this season. But those are not detox activities. Drinking a bottle of wine, going to sleep, and waking up with the same situation that has your mind mentally backed up is not how your business will get to profitability. What will happen is that you will continue a cycle of repetitiveness, and then you will stay in a cycle of brokenness, and your business will stay in a cycle of wasting money. It's not even going to be spending. At this point, you're not even spending money. If you continue to throw out money to coaches and courses and programs and membership programs and events and conferences and webinars, when you are constantly educating yourself, you are mentally backed up because with all of the knowledge you have received, taken at least 5 of the things I stated, you should be able to implement something that you have learned. If you're not able to implement, you are mentally backed up because you cannot figure out how to move from point A to point B. Staying on point A is going to cost you money, and that's going to hurt your business financially. Staying on point A may make you feel comfortable and safe, but mentally it is allowing more gunk to come into your mental space. Emotionally, you may appear as if you're fine, but if the right person on the right day says the right word, those floodgates will open and it could potentially damage the reputation of the brand that you are building. Do not want that to happen. I am speaking from experience. A lot of what I share when I'm giving you stories are my own experiences. I've done everything wrong in business, so you should be listening to me and do the opposite. And do the opposite because you do not want to have a very highly visible and popular business and a blog and then you're not profitable. You're making money, but you're not profitable. That's why I'm advocating for profitability. I know what it's like to make money, but I was not profitable. And I had to really understand after I did my detox that profitability in business is way more important than revenue. You can make $100,000, but if your expenses are $90,000 and your revenue is $10,000, What is that business? You are going to be heavily in debt within a few years because expenses don't get cut if you aren't already working within a reasonable amount of expenses based on a budget that you've created. In that case, you're just buying time before your business eventually goes, into debt, into the red. Think of all these shows we watch, The Prophet, Bar Rescue, Hotel Impossible, Restaurant Impossible. I don't think Restaurant Impossible comes on anymore. But anyway, these are shows of businesses. These are businesses, and most of them are in heavy debt because they kept spending money because they didn't know what to do. The reason they didn't know what to do is because they were mentally backed up and they could not make a wise strategic decision that would help their business progress. So, how do you do a detox? It's not drinking wine and going to the spa, I'll tell you that. But it is something that is going to go into a deeper level of yourself. And a lot of people are not ready for detox because you don't want to deal with the fallout of things that you don't know or is not expecting to surface. And when you go through a detox, things will surface that you may not have even realized was something that you repressed. So here's how to do a detox. I teach journaling as a detox. You can do meditation, you can do therapy, you can do, groups where you're talking to other people, masterminds, different things of that nature. You can, do yoga. You can do, go to like one of those Buddhist temples or, monasteries or something like that where you live in silence for like a month and you really being able to process your thoughts. Those are kind of expensive though. You do have to have some money. Um, I know some people who host retreats around the world in like very beautiful exotic places, and they really go through the work of getting you to connect with yourself and pull out things so that it's not stuck in your mind and in your emotions anymore. These are all types of different mental detoxes. I'm going to share more of journaling because that's the mental detox I teach, that's the mental detox I learn, and that's the mental detox that has worked for me. With journaling as a mental detox, it can be very overwhelming when you begin because you may look on Instagram and see these pretty handwriting challenges and pretty looking journals and colorful and all these things. That's not journal detoxing. Okay, that's just pretty stuff. If you are doing a journal detox, you have made a commitment to yourself that you are going to see the transformation that you are about to go through. You are going to see it all the way to the end. It is not going to be pretty. It is not going to be easy. And it is going to be emotionally draining. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But when you get to the other side, you make wiser and more strategic decisions for your business. You are able to say, nah, that's not going to work. What is the return on investment? Why should I be here? Why should I do this? Should I take this class? No. You will be able to really look at both sides of the same coin every time someone tries to sell you something. That way, you're not having all these expenses for your business in the education field. Because if you create a budget, or if you even just go through your bank statement and put everything in a category, and your education field is overwhelmingly the biggest expense you have in business, you are mentally stuck, and it's time for you to do a detox because you should not spend all this money educating yourself and then you do not follow through with anything you've learned. Because if you can't follow through, that means you can't think straight. If you can't think straight, you're not going to make a wise and strategic decision. If you don't make a wise and strategic decision, you're throwing money away. If you're throwing money away, you're losing profitability. If you're losing profitability, your business may not make it. I was there. I closed my business in May 2017. It is a process to getting to the point where you have to close your business. It can be short, it can be long, but it is a process like anything else. And it always starts with a cluttered mind. With the journaling detox, specifically what I teach classic journaling. That means you have a blank sheet of paper and you are writing your thoughts the way, however they are. It doesn't have to be grammatically correct. Punctuation does not have to be correct. Capitalization, it's not for anyone else's eyes. You're not giving it to a therapist. You're not giving it to me. You're not giving it to anyone else to read. No one should read your journal. It is your safe, sacred space for you to mind dump. As a classic journalist, as someone who teaches classic journaling, I do this for a few reasons. But let me explain. Journal detox is for people who are just going through issues. You may not have a mental illness. Okay, mental health and mental illness are not synonymous. You can take care of your mental health because you want to make sure that you maintain a healthy mental state. That is what we should all strive for. Mental illness is like depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety. Mental illness, you would need to see a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. You may need to see an actual licensed professional. But if you're just sad and frustrated and hurt and you have depression episodes, but you're not depressed, journaling detox is a very effective therapeutic beneficial way to get through whatever you're dealing with. As an entrepreneur, if you can carve out 10 minutes every day, and you do the journaling detox that I teach in my Facebook group, The Truth Confidant with Vernetta R. Freeney, you will begin your journey to transformation, and you will begin your journey to being able to make wiser and more strategic decisions. Going back to how I do the journaling, when you get my journal, you are looking at the journal and there's some pre-exercises before you get to the blank pages. These exercises were created to get you to start thinking in the direction that you want your life to go. Because once you decide the direction you want your life to go, it becomes easier for you to begin to remove things because now you have something to look forward to. There's a lot of people who can't do a lot of things because they don't know what it is they want. For me, I said, I want peace. I am peace. So that's the direction I want my life to go. And that's the direction I worked towards. And I am there now. When you work towards a direction and you arrive at it, then you now are in the maintaining stage of life. You can improve it, it can get better, but it's not going to get worse. Because I won't allow myself not to be in a peaceful state of mind every day. Will stuff happen? Will crap come up? Absolutely. It does every single day. But I don't let it get to me. Not like I did in the past, because I have a business to run. I have a blog association to run, and I need to make decisions, and I need to be clear when I make those decisions, because the blog association is not just me. There's a group of people, and I have to be very strategic and very wise with the decisions that have to be made for that group of people. For my business, I need to be strategic and I need to be wise because I've already closed one business because I was mentally backed up. And I refused to close another one because I am mentally backed up. So before I opened the Truth Confidant in 2017, I made sure that I had detoxed. Like I said, I'm not trying to be graphic, but I had detox. I had everything out of my system. Now, after you do the exercises in the journal, then you have some things some questions that I have in there, and some other things that will lead you to being able to look at that blank sheet of paper and begin to just pour the thoughts that are coming out of your mind. It doesn't matter what you put, it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, ugly, and different. You're just trying to get those thoughts out. You're trying to see everything that is stuck inside of you, and you're looking at them. Then you can start doing solution journaling. And that's where you come up with solutions for each of the situations. You want to start with one situation at a time, okay? Because it's just good to have a very tunnel vision way of thinking and a way of doing things when you're trying to get yourself out of situations. This will also help you see what your stress triggers are. And with those stress triggers, you will be able to see, okay, this particular thing ticks me off. What can I do if it continues to happen? What can I do to buffer myself so I don't get pulled and sucked back in? As an entrepreneur, stress happens every single day. Stress happens 100,000 times more than other people because not only are we trying to pay bills and live like regular people, but we're also trying to pay bills and run a business. It's different. It's almost like you're maintaining two households. If you already know the pressure it takes to manage and run your household financially, add a business that will magnify the stress that you have. When you have all of that extra stress, it hurts your decision making. But if you are working through your stress triggers and you know what they are, and you're, for example, one of my stress triggers is when people want to tell me what to do. And I'm not talking about like a boss or giving me suggestions. I'm talking about like they genuinely want to tell me what to do because I look 12 to everyone. I used to want to run off and pop off at the mouth. But as an entrepreneur, I can't go around popping off on the mouth at people because they have an ignorant way of looking at someone's face and saying, oh, you look 12, so I must be able to tell you what to do. Now I kind of just give them a stink eye, like to their face, and I walk away. I don't need to entertain their ignorance. It's not going to do me any good. It's just going to stress me out, cause me anxiety, and it's going to make me, replay, should have said this, should have done this. Instead of shoulda, coulda, woulda, I'm just not going to. Okay? I don't know if you can say gonna to whatever. I was trying to make it all rhyme, but it didn't work out. But when people want to say certain things to me because the way I look is I look young, I've just learned that, you know what? Obviously, if you're trying to come and tell me stuff to try to get me off course, I must be on the right path and I need to stay focused and I need to live my I am statement and I need to make sure that I'm continuing to make good decisions for the Truth Confidant. That's how I see it. Okay, so that's the same with your stress trigger. You have to know what your stress triggers are, and then you have to know how to deal with them. A lot of times, triggers, you can journal about them. You can go boxing. I would say you could go box after you've done your mental detox, but you find a way to like air out your frustration with that trigger without going back and forth with that other person who's trying to get you off your game. Life is a game according to a lot of people. So if life is a game, then what is entrepreneurship? It could be a game too. And if you're smart, then you know it's a chess game. You do not play checkers with people who want to take you out. You have to be smart and play chess against them. You have to make sure that the moves you make are going to be the best one so your queen is not captured, i.e., your money flow is not captured. And then you could take out their queen. Take out your competition legally in a good way by outperforming them with great customer service, outperforming them with a quality product, outperforming them with excellent marketing, outperforming them with innovative ideas, outperforming them with creative events that get your clients and customers all riled up and excited about your thing. This is chess. And in order to play chess, you have to make wise and strategic decisions. So we're going to take a quick sip and then we will be right back. Are you looking to gain independence? Tired of struggling? Ready to live your life in peace? If so, join us July 17th through the 20th for Detox the B.S. Summit. It's a 4-day phenomenal experience led by myself, two journaling experts, and a therapist. Can't watch it live? That's okay. You can still get the replays. Go to gum.co /detox the B.S. 2017. Again, go to gum.co /detox the B.S. 2017. We hope to see you there. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off in part one. What happens when you don't do a detox? Well, I kind of share my story, and those of you who've been listening to the podcast, my story is quite interesting when it comes to what happens when you don't do a detox. But let me tell you what happens when you don't do a detox and you have a business. Your customer service, it goes down, it declines. Your responsiveness declines. The way you respond to people, either verbally or email messenger, something like that, it's not going to be as professional as it could be. Your enthusiasm can become non existent. You will not put the same effort in quality control if you have a product. If you have a service, you may continue to reschedule because you're just not in the mood to do it. These are things that are going to hurt your bottom line, your profitability. If you do not do a detox, you're going to stay backed up. And if you stay backed up, things will suffer in your business. This is prime time for people to come in and take over and take your share of whatever market you're in. This is time for people to outshine you with their awesome customer service, have a better quality product than you, become a little bit more innovative than you. What we talked about in part one. When you do not do a detox, you open your business up for someone to come in and take what you have been working on. And it's easy, very, very easy for them to come in and take it because you don't have anything to protect yourself, because your mental state is not thinking clear, and you don't have anything to protect your business because you're not thinking clear. That is what can happen if you do not do a detox. So think about this. You can't make the decision to change until you're ready to do the work. So if I'm sitting here and I'm telling you as an entrepreneur you need to do a detox or you're going to stay backed up, but if you're not ready to do the work, you don't want to stay backed up, get off the fence. I just taught idioms to to one of my ESL classes. But you have to get off the fence. You have to make a decision. As an entrepreneur, you cannot live in a state of indecisiveness. Indecisiveness will be a huge, huge downfall for your business. Indecisiveness is what can potentially put you out of business. Let's just be real about that. If you want the transformation, if you want to live your I am statement, if you want to be able to think clear, if you want to be able to make wise and strategic decisions for your business, then you have to be ready to do the work. Can you run a business and still do the work? You can. It's going to be hard, but you can. I chose to kind of let my business slide. Well, I didn't really choose it. It kind of just happened that way where I just couldn't think. I had no more energy for running the business. So I just spent all that time working on myself because I just could not mentally get myself up and kick my butt into gear and motivate myself to run the business. I could not do it. And that business failed because I could not get up and I could not do it. There were days at a time where I was in bed. I just couldn't move. I couldn't think of doing anything business related. When I made the decision to transform my life, I did so and I did it willingly, but I still had no motivation for the business. So for me personally, I could not run my business and transform my life at the same time. Could you do it? Yes. If you have your why, if you understand your why, you know your why, you accept your why, you work on your why, you embrace your why for why you have that business, then yeah, you can do both. You just have to be adamant and committed and dedicated to seeing it to the end. That's the only thing. You have to see it to the end. Will that business stay open for you? Sometimes it will for people. Sometimes it won't. It just depends, because once you go through the transformation and you detox all of the BS in your life, you may realize you didn't really like that business, you just did it. Or you may realize, hey, I really see a lot of potential here. I'm ready to go. I feel more energized. I can do this. But again, it's all based on your way of thinking, and your way of thinking has to be clear. And the way to get clear is to detox the BS. You have to be willing to do the work. I mean, it's just there. As an entrepreneur, we know that when we want the business to be successful, we have to do the work. If we don't do the work, if we don't show up, if we don't do what's necessary, if we do not implement, then our business does not progress. If you want to progress as a human being who is connected to yourself, who is aware of yourself, and who owns who you are, then you have to be able to say, I am committed to the end of this transformation because I want my business to be successful. At the end of the transformation, whether you decide to keep that business or not is based on the transformation you go through, the process, the journey you go through. But if you want any type of success that's going to be sustainable, then you have to think about, I need my life to get together. I have got to learn how to transform my life, because if I do not transform my life, it's just going to hit the fan. I'm saying ish because I'm not trying to get no R rated on my podcast today. But you got to let it go. You have to let it go. I mean, there's times that you want to just slap go off on people. I get it. I understand. I do. Trust me, I do. But you can't always go off on people. Can you be filtered? I mean, can you be unfiltered? Yeah. We talked about that last episode. You can be unfiltered, but then there's a time and a place for you to share your opinion, to expose your opinion. This is what I want you guys to do. You have to make a decision. And this decision should not take you 3 days to make. You need to decide, like, hey, do I want to transform my life where I wake up every day in a state of whatever you want that state to be: happiness, peace, joy, love, excitement, exhilaration, thrilling, whatever whatever you choose? Or do I want to continue to stay backed up and just do what I've been doing? It's okay. No one I know, they don't have that life. They're just comfortable where they are. You got to make a decision. Once you make that decision, then you're ready for your transformation. So now it's time for us to do the final toast, and then we're going to close out. So the final toast this week is, you got to make a decision, because if you do not make a decision whether you want to detox the BS in your life or stay backed up, you are going to not have a profitable business, because you will not be able to make wise and strategic decisions. In order to have a profitable business, you have to be able to make those chess moves. And to make those chess moves, you have to be able to have clear thinking. That's from a detox. That's from a mental detox. And that mental detox is going to help lead your business to profitability. That's my final toast. This is National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. This is Season 5, Episode 2, Detox the BS or Stay Backed Up. This is Vernetta Arfreni. That's me, bringing you another episode of A Toast to Truth. To catch up on all past episodes, go to VernettaArfreni.com and click Podcasts.